Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chureshumme, washwale, ohaya gonzaimas, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shumat chatore, ahlan wasahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, Swabi Av, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside Shahzad Khan on a cold Friday morning over here in Islamabad. Ladies and gentlemen, the weather's just getting colder and colder. And it's not fair, early in the morning when you actually have to get up for your morning show, especially the time is somewhat around 6 a.m. in the morning, on 6:30 a.m. in the morning. And, when you see your kids sleeping in all the comfort you can provide them with blessings from Allah Almighty, and you see your wife sleeping under that warm quilt, you just do not feel like getting out of it. But yes, that's life. And, I think that this is something which we have asked for by ourselves as well, ladies and gentlemen. And it's because of the fact that, for men over here within our own society, if they do not work, they have to go through a lot of different problems. I mean, they have some different kind of pressure from their parents as well, induced onto them. And it's just because of the fact that, when men are working, it's great. And now I think I'm a firm believer that, women should actually work as well, because it's because of the fact that the global population of women is somewhat around 56%. So imagine an economy driven by just 44% of the total population won't really be enough. So I think that everybody needs to play their role. Everybody needs to decide whether what they want to do in life. For some, money is important. For some, work is important. For some, career is important. For some, position is important. So it varies from different walks of life. People from different walks of life have different priorities, but that's how it is. But other than that, it's time to rise and shine, wake and bake, get up and be more focused about what we want to do in life. Because, ladies and gentlemen, people who are sleeping, yeah. So we have a saying over here in Urdu, "Jo sota hai, wo khota hai." So, it's one, in a way, we are actually trying to say that people who actually sleep a lot, they lose a lot as well. And the early bird gets the worm. I think that that's the kind of formula I believe in as well. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, it's almost 6 years that we're doing this show, and we've always invited people from different walks of life. We've had world leaders over here on the shows. We've had politicians on the show as well. We've had actors, we've had singers, musicians, doctors, and whatnot. But today, for the very first time in 6 years, ladies and gentlemen, we are actually proud of talking about failure. And I'm very thankful to my producers. I'm very thankful to my boss that, they kind of gave us this guest, and it's because of the fact that this conversation, I believe, is going to be very inspiring. And it's because of the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, I myself have failed in life. It's not that nobody fails. I mean, and imagine that I actually got 9 marks in my math examination in my first year. So you can pretty much assume that, failure is not that bad, because getting back up after that particular failure is the thing which will make you more stronger. But it does not come that easy. There's a lot of dedication involved. There's a lot of morals involved. There's a lot of motivation involved in it as well. But other than that, that was obviously on the lighter note that I actually kind of flunked in my maths exam in first year. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I had my own production house. We were working, and we were working in great synergy with my team members. And for the first year, we made a lot of profit. We kind of traveled the world too as well. But other than that, the next year, the following year, we kind of went into losses. And it was just because of the fact that my team kind of tried nicking money off me as well. And one way or the other, I found it out. And then I thought that, since I'm not making any more profit, I did a study, and they told me that for the next 6 months, you can actually try. And then, it won't be very feasible for you to run the business. And this is what I did. I have a mentor, and not many people kind of are happy with that when I say the name. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vakar Zaka has always been a teacher of mine, even when I got into television. He was the one who actually taught me this formula that if one thing does not work, just scrap it, think of another one. If that does not work, think of another one. If that does not work, think of another one. And I kind of held on to that formula, and it worked for me because, Allah has given us all the similar brains, and we can pretty much think about it as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, for all of those people who do not really accept the failure, I mean, there can be two schools of thoughts over here. They might think that they'll make it one day. But what if there are no chances of making it? What if there's no reality behind making it again and again. So ladies and gentlemen, I think that for all of those people who succeed in this world are those people who realize that it's time to move on, or when they face a failure, they get back up, think of a newer idea, or do some minor changes and prosper. So this gentleman whom we have invited over here on the show today, last year in 2019, he started this Fail Festival or Failure Festival 1.0 series as well. He went to different universities. He went to ComSats VA, he went to ComSats Abbottabad, he went to APS, he went to different schools where they were keynote speakers, and they told their own inspirational stories of how they failed and then got back up. And I think that it is so important for our community and for our society to know that failure is not that bad, but getting back up is very important after that particular failure which you have faced. This is something, ladies and gentlemen, which we are actually talking about. And to talk about this, we have the brain behind it, the person who actually conceived this idea, that it'll be so amazing to share, the failure stories and then tell them that how were we successful. And to talk about all of this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very lucky that I've been actually joined by Mr. Sheikh Muhammad Ali, who himself likes him to be introduced as the Wandering Darwish. Other than that, he's an international speaker. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. And the best part over here is that this is for the very first time in my life that I have heard about a festival which is based on failures. How did this idea come across your mind?
Okay, as you yourself mentioned, this friend of mine, he's from Peshawar. He works for the government there. He called me over to come as a speaker, join him at the Failure Festival.
You yourself are an inspirational speaker as well.
Yes, I am a motivational speaker. I've been doing this for the last 20 years, internationally and locally as well. So I went on the internet to find out as to what the Failure Festival is about. How can you make a festival out of failure? Failure being a taboo in this country. So when I went on the net to find this out as to what this Failure Festival he was talking about, I was really surprised to learn that this gentleman called John Weschler, he started this idea some 20 years back from Indianapolis in the US. He was pretty young then. And what he did was he invited speakers like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Oprah Winfrey, and they would come stand on the podium at the auditoriums and they would talk about their failures and how they bounce back in life. So what I did was I started writing. I thought maybe I would have 3 failures, so I started writing them. And I was surprised when I started writing, and I usually do it on my laptop, the story was not ending, and there were failures after failures after failures. It kept on going. So I was really inspired. I got the kick out of this, and I went to Peshawar and I spoke and bragged about my failures. There were 5 other people who were invited for this show, and we had fun talking about our failures. Failure being a taboo in this part of the world, generally we don't talk about our failures, and we have our own inhibitions. But it is important, especially at our ages, I feel that we need to inspire the younger generation. I see a lot of injustices around. I see a lot of deprivation. There's too much in the news which tells you as to what is going wrong in the country, and positivity we don't find.
That's what news is all about anyways.
But you have to show positivity also too, because people get so depressed. I'm sorry, I call it the idiot box, just like the Americans
that's how people call it.
I went to school in the US, so I'm kind of framed in that old league whereby we don't find time to watch TV because all they give you is negativity. There are positive things happening in this country.
And we are doing it today, early in the morning.
That's precisely why I'm here, and I really loved it when you picked this up and this concept, and that's how it started. And we went to talk to Faisal Mushtaq. He's a good friend at the TMUC in Islamabad. He was kind enough to give us his auditorium. That's where we started. We had our first Failure Festival here. Then we went to Nowshera, APS Nowshera, to Abbottabad ComSats. Thanks to ComSats, I know the directors there, they're friends. I was with HEC for 15 years, so I used those contacts, alhamdulillah. And HEC has given me this platform to go out and speak. I was instrumental in sending some 3,000 plus scholars abroad in 18 countries.
Wow.
I was sent by HEC to 12 countries to go and do these MOUs with them.
Exactly.
And that's the inspiration whereby I was given this platform to go out and speak my heart and speak my mind. And through this Failure Festival, we go out and tell the younger generation that we all fail. All of us are storytellers now. And there's nothing wrong in failing, because if you don't fail, you will not know what success is. Not everybody is born with a silver spoon in his or her mouth.
Exactly.
So there's nothing wrong in failing, but what is important is that you get up, you get back, and you give it, you bounce back, and you give your best shot to it.
That's wonderful, and thank you very much for letting us know that, you know, how the idea came across as well, and it's great and it's brilliant. But see, you know, when Sir actually said that, you know, it's tabooed and it's stigmatized, the word failure, and I mean, there's this one quotation which from Quaid-e-Azam, and that is by Quaid-e-Azam, and he said that, you know, failure is a word unknown to me. So, you know, for people who've actually drawn inspiration from him, they might have a very different concept. But what I'm going to ask you now is a very different thing, and it might be a little deteriorating from the topic, but I think that it's relevant. So, you know, for somebody, you know, we over here in Pakistan, we think that for somebody who's actually, who went abroad and had their education over there, went to different parts of the country, you know, you just mentioned that HEC sent you in 12 different countries, you were going to school in United States of America. So over here, you know, we sitting in Pakistan, we think that, you know, for somebody who's got such credentials over the years, it's hard for them to fail. So where did you fail then? And how?
Okay, let me start by the first story, which when I presented myself in the Failure Festival, I was in the top of my class from class 1 till class 5. Then I joined, I'm from Karachi, I've been here for the last 17 and a half years, and I come from an educationist family. My mother is a professor of English. My father worked for Dawn newspaper, he was there for 18 years. So when I joined this BVS Parsi school, it still is one of the best schools in Karachi, and wonderful school. We loved our principal. She would cane us just to make you know, good students out of us and give us moral values and ethical values and everything. And in my class 6, my first class in that particular school, I got 13 in the class. And prior to that, I was, imagine I was number 1. So that was more like a failure to me, because I thought that I was on top of this world and I was, you know, the best student in my class in the previous school, and here I am with as 13th ranker. And I was really upset about it. And that kept on going for the next classes, to the extent that when I was in class 9th and we had our first SSC exam, the board exam, myself and this class fellow of mine, I won't name him, he's gonna kill me, he got 58% and I got 59%. And we actually shamed the school in the board because rest were all good students. And our principal called us, both of us. He was the class prefect at that time, and by virtue of my mother being the professor of English, and she knew the principal, so we just got lucky and she did not cane us. But she warned us that she will throw us out of school if we repeat our performance the next year. So we got so scared, and alhamdulillah, both of us, we got 70 and beyond in our next year. So we worked harder, we tried harder.
That's great. Well, what was keeping you busy in your 9th grade that you actually dropped down to having 59% marks? I think that's something which will be very interesting.
Yes, maybe it was overwhelming to have such good students in my class. And because prior to that, since I was the top ranker in that school, maybe among those kids who were not that good. So I thought maybe, you know, that helped me. But it pushed me harder. It pushed me harder to perform.
That's great. And, you know, it's interesting and it's inspiring to listen to all of this as well. But one way or the other, I think I have a firm belief that failure is necessary for innovation. You know, because when you're so desperate to get something done for yourself, you know, you kind of push your limits as well. Do you agree to this, that failure is important for innovation?
It is. Unless you don't fail, you will not feel the need of creating something new. We talk about Thomas Edison
Yes.
making the light bulb, but we don't talk about him failing maybe 2,000 or 1,000 times that he did.
Exactly.
So there are cases, there are so many cases in history whereby people have failed, and then we have this WhatsApp guy lately, you may have seen his clip, and they came from Ukraine. He was really poor. They migrated to himself, and his mother migrated to California, and they would feed themselves out of food stamps, and then he selling WhatsApp to Facebook for 19 point some billion dollars.
Exactly.
Yeah. Madonna, we have the case of Madonna.
Oprah.
Madonna
Yes.
was eating out of garbage dumps.
Exactly.
And look where she is. But when I read about these people, I met some of them when I was in the US, they were all perseverant as to achieving something, doing something better in life.
Exactly.
And they all have a story.
So you are even of the mindset that, you know, for innovation, failure is important.
It is very important.
So, okay, so then, sir, I think that for all of those people who are actually watching us today, you know, we're going out in 46 different countries as well, they might be thinking that why not to just focus on success then? You know, why even talk about failure? Because, you know, this is how people feel lately, that, you know, it's that energy, you know, whatever you say, it'll come back to you. You know, this is how things are working these days. This is how people are talking about it. That the kind of energy you're going to disseminate, that's the kind of energy you're going to get back as well. So why not just think positive and just talk about success stories?
It is much easier to talk about your success
Yes.
rather than talking about your failures.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
like that famous saying that you have to be a man to stand up to your mistakes.
Yep.
So whoever that I've interviewed, whoever that have come to our failure festival so far, and I've already gathered like 20-25 people,
Yes, sir.
they've all failed.
Okay.
They've all failed in their lives, and they have their stories on failure.
All right.
And they were comfortable in talking about failures, because see, not all people are generally successful. Yeah. But all of us are failures. If somebody says that I've never failed in life, I'm sorry, he's a liar. I would not believe that. Yeah. So
That's why I said it in the beginning that, you know,
Yes.
this did happen to me.
So having said that, by the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce my 3 other colleagues. One is Mr. Kashif Khan. He's an associate professor at Iqra University.
Wow.
Mr. Wasim Asrar, he runs his business in Medina, and he's winding up coming back. They're both Karachites like myself. Then there's third gentleman, he's a corporate lawyer. Actually, he sits next door, Mr. Visal Khan.
All right.
So when we were driving back, myself and Visal, we were coming back from Peshawar. So we thought maybe we should start this in Islamabad. Why don't we do it there? And that's how all 4 of us sat together, and we started this program. And it was just like at the spur of the moment. I had contacts, they had contacts. All 3 of them have failed in their projects, in their lives. So we thought that there's nothing wrong in failing. And when we go out, we tell the younger generation, people can't become Bill Gates overnight. They can't become Oprah Winfrey's. They can't become Sajjad Ali, the singer, and Shahzad Roy for that matter.
Exactly.
So they have a story, they have a life, and what is important for us when we go out and tell the younger people is we all have our own separate journeys.
Exactly.
We don't need to copy others. We don't need to imitate others. Live your life, live your dream, live your passion, give your best shot.
Yep.
And God gives you those opportunities in life to
Exactly.
succeed one way or the other. Opportunity does come to you.
So that's true. But don't you think that we will actually be promoting a culture of making mistakes or failing, or, you know, failing being accepted by the society? Don't you think that that this word failure will actually be then more common, and then we'll have more cases of failure rather than success?
On the contrary, since we all fail, so why don't we talk about it, and why don't we, I'm not saying that we promote failure.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to promote our success, but there's nothing wrong in failing.
Yeah.
That is what our emphasis
God
is
forbid
on.
if you do fail, there's nothing wrong in it.
Yes, you can bounce back. You can come up again.
Exactly.
We have our examples. Look at Riaz Malik Sahab. He was not what he is today, right? So he must have failed somewhere along the line.
Indeed.
You fail when you're in the army. You fail when you work for the government. You fail when you're in the private sector.
Yeah.
So failure has become a very negative connotation in this country, and people just don't talk about it. They're scared to. There's nothing wrong in failing.
Exactly.
Yeah? And you need to find, we all want to succeed, but if there are failures, we can talk about it. Don't go into depression just because you failed, just because you think log kya kahenge.
Exactly.
We have thrown that out of the window, that concept of log kya kahenge. Go do
It's your life, do
It's
whatever.
your life.
Yeah.
It's your life.
Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I've actually met a man of my mindset as well, and I think that this is the rule I live by in my life as well, that, you know, it does not really matter whether I fail or succeed, because at the end of the day, it's my life, and those are my kids, and that's my family, and I know probably how to make things work. But having said that, I think that you really need to have a very realistic eye at the same time. It's not all dreamy, and it's not all very harsh as well. I think what people need to do is that people do not realize the kind of talent they possess, and they kind of venture into different things just because of the fact that they've worked out for somebody else. They think that it's going to work out for themselves as well. Sure. And there was this research article, sir, I'm going to share with you, which I studied, I think, a year or 2 years ago. And it said that there's only 1% total population who come up with original ideas or newer ideas. The rest only have to copy it perfectly. Yes. Do you think that this is the right thing to say?
You may not need to copy precisely as to what the other people are doing, but you can innovate.
Yeah.
You can have your own ideas.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Bollywood copies Hollywood.
Yeah.
Lollywood copies Bollywood.
Yeah. Kareem copies Uber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Uber bought Kareem. So look at this gentleman you mentioned about Kareem. Look at this Mudassir Sheikh or Sheikha. And I initially thought that he was an Arab, but I was surprised to learn that he was a Pakistani based in UAE.
Yep.
And look at his company, look at his vision.
And he did a great job.
He did a great job. I'm inspired by this senior friend of mine, the owner of Nayatel, Wahaj Siraj.
Yeah, we've had
He's an
him on
amazing
the show.
gentleman.
Exactly.
Prior to joining HEC, I was at the Ministry of Science and Technology, and he had just left before I joined in. And he had amazing concepts when I met him, and the vision that he has. And he has failed too. I will not go into his failures. He's gonna won't like me for that. But he's amazing.
Exactly, and I think that, ladies and gentlemen, over here in Pakistan, we have a lot of unsung heroes as well, and we really need to promote it that way. But sir, very quickly before I wind up, before we wrap up this segment, my first thing which I wanted to ask was that, you know, where is this Fail Festival going to happen in 2020? What are your plans about that? And the second one is that whenever you have failed after your marriage, what was the response you got from your wife or your family? His wife is here, by the way, in the studios as well, recording. So please go ahead.
What was the first question again?
So the first question is
where we are doing the FailFest. Well, the next FailFest was supposed to be today.
Okay.
But as luck would have it, because of the weather, the extreme cold weather and the fog, it was postponed, not cancelled, but we've moved it forward to, let's say, in the next 10 days, we're going to have it at the Shaheed Benazir Bhutto Women University in Peshawar.
Wow.
And I was called by one of my scholars. She's a PhD scholar, head of the department there, Dr. Rehana Mahsood. She herself hails from Waziristan.
Wow.
And the specific reason that she said that you must come here and inspire the younger girls, it's an all-women college, university, is because all these girls belong to the tribal areas.
Yep.
And we are so motivated to go and talk to these girls because they've never been to Islamabad, they've not come to Murree, and you know, they've never seen the snow there and things like that. So these are the kind of people that we want to go down to rather than asking them to come here to the bigger cities. Another thing what we want is now we are sort of branching out to smaller cities. I feel that the younger people, we are a privileged class here in Islamabad, in Karachi, in Lahore, and Peshawar for that matter. But who's going to go to Jhelum or Nowshera or Bhai Pheru or Chicha Watni and what have you? So we've decided to go there and hold their fingers and give them an inspirational message that yes, you can do it.
And it's wonderful. So now the second one. So whenever you have failed, what was the first response you got from your wife and the family?
Okay, well, as far as my wife is concerned, I'm really thankful to her. First, I'm very thankful to my mother, actually, who's the reason that I'm sitting in front of you.
Wow.
She gave me the chance to go out and study and do whatever that I wanted to do in my life. I love her. She's alive, mashallah. She's 84. My Baba is alive.
Mashallah.
He's 88. And they've always allowed me to go and experiment with things that I wanted to do. I've studied in Europe, I've studied in the Far East, I've studied in the US, lived and worked abroad for 8 years, and they've given the world to me.
Wow.
Coming back to marriage, I always wanted to, I'm the only son, I have 2 sisters, alhamdulillah, happily married, settled in Karachi. I was going around like Ibn Battuta, wandering Darwish, so going to these cities and countries and making friends there and, you know, meeting new people and getting involved in their cultures and their religions. So I thought that I should come back and I should, that typical Pakistani, I'm sorry, but that kind of thing whereby I would want my mother to get me married to the girl that she would like, because at the end of the day, with all this education of 18 years and going abroad and living and settling there and working for all these years, I thought that parents could make the best decisions for us.
Exactly.
Especially when they're educated.
Thank you very much for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of that, and that is why I came back and I got married to this woman who my mother liked for me, my sisters approved of, and alhamdulillah, I have no regrets.
Mashallah.
I have no regrets. She's always supported me. I support her. She's going to be my next speaker in the FailFest. She's got her own sweet failures. Actually, they're not failures, but not the kind of success that she deserved or desired.
Yeah.
But yes, I've pushed her to go and talk to the girls and motivate them, being a housewife.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm always behind her. She's with me. She supports me.
And that's great. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that this is how things work out. Otherwise, I don't think that, you know, that FailFest would have been a success. FailFest would have been happening over here in Pakistan as well. Imagine that if one day I just go to my wife and I say that I'm going to speak about my failures, she might be like, you should actually talk about your marriage. You know, so things like that, I think that, you know, one way or the other, the only reason that we had him over here was that to show you or to prove to you that, ladies and gentlemen, failure is not a bad thing. The bad thing is not getting back up and not bouncing as well. But thank you very much, sir, for being with us. It was lovely to have you, and we're going to have you back again, inshallah, in a couple of months. And we're going to ask you more about your failure festivals. And inshallah, I would love to be a part of it. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, when we say or use the word failure, at times it is because of the fact that we did something wrong during the process. And otherwise, it's because of the fact that we didn't have the right support, that we didn't have the right system, that we didn't have the right things in the place, and then people fail, and it's not their fault. That's something which I'm going to talk about, because, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow happens to be Braille Awareness Day as well. There are a lot of people who cannot see, but then there are a lot of people who cannot even write or express their own feelings, and it's just because of the fact that we do not have a system in place. We're going to talk about that after a short break. Don't go anywhere. Good morning.